Sure. So let's see how this works. Do, do, do. So hopefully you should see my PowerPoint window.
Yeah, you're all good there. I can see it.
Yep, you can see it. All right, very good. So, right, welcome everyone. Thank you for showing interest in learning about research in the Faculty of Science. I am Professor Chris Kozak from the Department of Chemistry. Therefore, most of the specific examples, of course, I'm going to be talking about relate to chemistry, but if you are in other programs in the faculty, such as biology, biochemistry, physics, psychology, earth sciences, ocean sciences, etc. Similar programs will be available to you through your departmental representative or the professor you're teaching. So we'll get started with my PowerPoint here, which sort of summarizes what we're trying to do. So ultimately, why research in a science degree as an undergraduate student? And this is the beautiful thing about Memorial University. We are a large enough university that we have a very vigorous and dynamic graduate research program. So lots of training of master's students, PhD students, postdoctoral fellows. So the majority of the faculty that teach science courses at Memorial do research. So therefore we have research groups as well as their teaching. But we're also small enough that we can extend that research experience to undergraduate students, which a lot of the bigger universities, they don't have that opportunity to do so. So undergraduate students at Memorial, even out of their first year, really do have lots of opportunities to participate in cutting edge research and learning outside of the teaching labs. Sure, the teaching lab, I guess, is sort of like a test kitchen or a training kitchen. If you want to liken doing science to learning to cook, you can do a degree in culinary science, you can go into a teaching kitchen and learn the basics. You can learn about the tools, you can learn about the techniques and methods, but doing research allows you to take those tools and methods that you've used and come up with something new and entirely unique. So exploring an area of your science that perhaps no one else has ever explored in. So you're venturing into sort of no person's land, right? So it's unexplored territory, which is exciting because you're doing work now that no one else has done, and you're trying to answer questions that many people might have been asking for a very long time, or based on what's happening in society these days, new questions keep arising. So we as scientists have to be able to pivot and change. Certainly since the COVID pandemic, there's been a lot more research directed to that side of things. So there are certainly opportunities for undergraduate students at Memorial to participate in this cutting edge research. So my next slide, hopefully it behaves itself. Okay, where are you going? There we go. Okay, so I'm going to talk about a chemistry degree specifically now. So what do people do, for example, with a chemistry degree? So people might think, well, chemists, they just make chemicals. But ultimately, with a chemistry degree, with a Bachelor of Science degree, you can, of course, go on to graduate studies, so do a master's degree or a PhD. And these are all examples of jobs or research areas or certain vocations that students that I've trained myself in my research lab have gone on to. So people have become science writers or editors for scientific journals or even newspapers. Forensic science, working with police. Pharmaceutical research, very, very critical now. And it's different from pharmacy. This is, instead of dispensing the pharmaceuticals, you're now developing the new pharmaceuticals, like these mRNA vaccines that many of us have been exposed to in our attempt to prevent the spread of COVID. Law. Some of our undergraduate students in chemistry have gone on to law degrees, and that gives you a really unique perspective because you are now well versed in science. You are scientifically literate, and with a lot of laws nowadays relating to science, medicine, technology, engineering. Having that background in sciences is critically helpful towards being a successful lawyer in those fields. Chemical engineering. Students can often do undergraduate degrees in chemistry and then do a graduate degree in chemical engineering. Cannabis research, certainly in Canada, this has become very, very important. There are lots of startup companies in terms of developing products from cannabis and ensuring purity and quality and reproducibility for everyone's safety and well-being. Of course, there's pharmacy. So we've had students who've completed undergraduate degrees in chemistry who've gone on to become pharmacists or transferred into the PharmD program. Chemical industry, certainly you don't see so much of it in Newfoundland, but in the rest of Canada and North America, the chemical industry is very vibrant. Dentistry, other professional schools like medicine, optometry, veterinary science. And lastly, and perhaps most close to my heart, is education, right? So what I love to see are very enthusiastic and very bright chemistry undergraduate students staying on for a degree in education because they want to share their enthusiasm, their love of chemistry and science in general with students of all ages, whether it be primary school, high school, college, or university teaching. So there's a lot of things that you can do with it. Don't think of your degree, and this goes for every degree, don't think of your degree as an end in itself. It's really a path. It's a stepping stone. Do your degree because it's something you love. Don't do your degree because you think, I want to do this degree because this will produce a product at the end, namely, hopefully gainful employment. But do it because you love it, because you're genuinely interested in it, because very few people will actually spend the rest of their entire lives doing that thing that they learned to do in, say, a third-year biochem or a third-year biology class. So why do research? So lots of reasons. So as an undergraduate to do research, you gain a deeper understanding of your science. And we call this experiential learning, right? It's immersive. You are asking the questions along with your professor supervisor, and you're going in and trying to answer those questions yourself, as opposed to memorizing material from a textbook for a test, right? You're not tested on this. It's exploratory. You are an explorer in your field, which is what's great about research. You learn new skills through self-directed problem-based learnings. Every day you go into the laboratory or whatever area of research you're in, you are solving different problems. So no 2 days are the same. So people who do well in research aren't necessarily the students who do the best on tests or on exams or get the best marks. They're the students who like to solve problems and don't get frustrated by problems, because most of your experiments will not go the way that you intended, but you always learn something from them. Right? That's the key thing. You always reflect and you learn. And that's what I love about research. And if you do get something fascinating coming out of your work, you can publish it, which is fun. So you get to write. So you get to write about your work and describe it and present it in a publication, or I'll talk about this later, at student conferences. So you get to share that knowledge that you learned with other people who are interested in what you have to say, which is great. It's great for your ego. And lastly, of course, medical, dental, and graduate schools, so the professional schools, they really look favorably on students with research experience for these reasons: that you are a good problem solver, that you've dealt with adversity in your learning, and you've often be a successful researcher, you have to be very self-directed, self-motivated, and ambitious, right? You can't just constantly be pushed from the outside. So this really impresses people on selection panels for various postgraduate programs and professional schools. So first, I'm going to show you a couple of videos of 2 graduate students from my research group, along with that of Dr. Fran Curtin. So Dr. Curtin and I, in the chemistry department Memorial, we run what we call the Green Chemistry and Catalysis Research Group. And we have video testimonials from 2 of our graduate students who also did undergraduate research, so they can share some of their views as to what they see as important in terms of research. So the first is Juliana. And hopefully you can hear the audio and the music.
My name is Juliana. I'm from Brazil. And today I'll try to explain to you how I ended up doing chemistry here in Canada. So after I finished my high school, I really liked the way you can explain everything using chemistry, and I decided to do chemistry for a living. But in the chemistry course, I faced a huge problem, that is when people know you are actually doing chemistry. So when people ask you, what do you do? And you ask chemistry. And you're like, oh, so you explode things, right? And I was like, and that's in the middle of my course, I decided to study green chemistry because I wanted to show people that chemistry can do a lot of good things and actually research and study them. So in my previous university, we didn't have a green chemistry department. So I decided to travel and to green chemistry in another country. And that's when I found Mr. Curtin group. And I decided to come here and do green chemistry with them. And she kindly accepted me. Here I am. So in my PhD in Dr. Curtin's group, we actually are trying to find another use for the CO2 besides warming our planet. So we use the CO2 as feedstock for reactions that are going to give products that can be used in the industry. And it's very rewarding now that when some people they come, oh, so we explode things, I can say no to the industry. And actually explain to them what green chemistry is all about and try to make them understand that we actually are trying to save the world and that sometimes chemistry can do some bad things, but we learn from it. And although there are a lot of people trying to make bad things with chemistry, there are a lot of good people too. And that's the good side of chemistry we want to show to everyone. So I think the most important thing about chemistry is like balance. I think we've done a lot of stupid things during the years, but we didn't know what was going on. And I'm glad people can research and study this to make good things now and try to recover what we've done. And we still have time. So I know the world is warming up and people are saying that's no turning back and everything. But I think that we keep researching, we can keep in mind that if we actually can do something, we can. So that's my goal as a green chemist, and I hope I can explain this to people and, I don't know, maybe influence someone to do this too. And that's my goal as a green chemist, to show people that we're actually trying to do it, and we have to get more people to do it too. So that's it. Thank you very much. I hope I see you in Portland, and
So the next video is a testimonial from Coriandria, who is a scholarship holder. She holds what's called a Vanier Scholarship. She just graduated our program, and after completing her undergraduate degree in chemistry at Cape Breton University in Nova Scotia, she came to Memorial and earned Canada's most prestigious scholarship in research, which is the Vanier Scholarship, and it's open to Canadians and international students as well. And following from her PhD, which she successfully defended, she loved school so much, she got accepted to the dentistry program at Dalhousie. So she will be a PhD holding dentist. So she will be Dr. Coriandria. She's collecting degrees as a hobby. This is a little video of her summarizing her experience as a graduate student and the importance of winning this scholarship, allowing her to conduct her independent research.
My research at Memorial University in the Green Chemistry group, we're focused on trying to contribute to the big CO2 issue in the world and society today. What we're looking at is making biodegradable plastics using carbon dioxide as a feedstock and taking that carbon dioxide that's in the atmosphere, putting it into something useful and helping to contribute to the overall plastic crisis at the same time. We need plastics in our everyday lives, right? So, you know, if you think of third world countries, if it wasn't for plastics, they wouldn't have access to clean drinking water, stuff like that. If you think in hospitals, things need to be one use for sterilization effect. So can we make a material that allows that use, but then when it's done and it becomes a waste product, it's not harming the environment at the other end of its life? So the material we're trying to create is something that's going to break down in the environment at its end of use. We want to have chemical bonds in our materials that nature is actually capable of breaking down already. So nature actually knows best when it comes to these materials. Can we mimic something that's out there that bacteria can break down rather than the materials that are out there now that are sourced from petroleum that are more man-made, where nature itself isn't as good at breaking these things down because they haven't had to. The Vanier Scholarship is the most prestigious scholarship you can receive as a PhD student pursuing studies in Canada. So it's open to Canadian citizens as well as international students. And it's a scholarship that funds you to pursue PhD studies. It's $50,000 a year for 3 years, non-taxable since it's a scholarship. And it allows me to focus 100% on my research without having that financial burden of trying to live on your own and pay your tuition and travel and stuff like that. So it kind of takes away that and allows us to really focus on what we're here to do and is contribute to the scientific community as a whole during our PhD studies. So it's a really rewarding and very honored to be recognized as a Vanier Scholar. So even though I have a Vanier Scholarship, I do take the option in being a teaching assistant and teaching labs for undergraduate students. It's just such a rewarding experience, and you get so much more out of teaching and interacting with undergrads. I think being able to give back to the students like that is really, really rewarding. I think it's really important for students to get to know your professors and get to know these people because they're there to help you. And if it wasn't for all the mentors I had along the way that helped me and gave me guidance and, you have these people to bounce ideas off of, I wouldn't be where I am. Where I did my undergrad, there was only one female prof and the rest were all male. And she was actually the one that really, helped me along the way. I think for a young female pursuing a PhD in this field, it's important for us to really have those female role models helping us along the way. And of course, there are the male role models that recognize the challenges as well, and they're very helpful at the same time. So it's more or less not necessarily male or female, but having the people to help you overcome the challenges. So you need to love what you're doing. You need to be a hard worker. You need to surround yourself with people to help you succeed, and everything else kind of falls into place.
Okay. So yes, so how do you get involved in research? As a student, as Corey said, surround yourself with people who are going to help you succeed. And one way of doing that is by joining a society. So regardless of what program you're in, psychology, earth sciences, biology, chemistry, biochemistry, physics, math, they all have student societies. And I strongly encourage any new student to Memorial, even if you're entering your 4th year and you haven't joined a society, reach out to the society because they provide social and academic support. There are also opportunities to go to Science Atlantic student conferences. So for chemistry, we've got the ChemCon conference, which is held every spring in May. So in the days that we can travel again, hopefully coming up next summer, our students are looking forward to going to the conference there and talking about their undergraduate research that they've conducted, which is great. So that's another advantage of being in Atlantic Canada, because we've got a lot of primarily undergraduate universities where, again, these students are doing research themselves right out of their 1st year. And you'll get to meet people with whom you'll share your experiences and learn together and help each other get through your program, which can be very, very difficult. So great. How do I do research? Step 1, talk to a professor in the science you may be interested in. So if you haven't declared a program yet, if you're a 1st year student and you really like your math prof, you really like your physics or your chemistry or biology prof, talk to them about opportunities that are available in their departments. Step 2, also talk to your TAs. And this is where Andrea was talking about the fact that she loves the fact that she's able to TA and impart that knowledge on students as a teaching assistant. And talk to them because they're the people who are genuinely in the lab. As a full professor now, I very rarely spend any time in the lab doing actual research. I'm busy trying to get the money to do research and to help my students publish their papers. But the students are the ones that are actually in the lab, in the trenches, so to speak, doing the heavy lifting. So talk to their TAs and they can tell you, oh, this person's doing some really, really cool work. You might not have them as a prof yet, but go speak to them. They're really friendly. They'll give you a tip or advice. They may even take you on. Step 3, think, how would you like to participate in your research? Do you want to volunteer? So if you're volunteering, you're not getting paid for it, but it gives you a lot more flexibility because you can sort of jump in and out of the lab however it fits your schedule. So if you've got a very busy timetable, maybe volunteering is the way for you, that you can only, job shadow a graduate student in the lab for a couple of hours a week. And that gives you a little bit of taste, like an amuse-bouche of the research that's happening in that laboratory. Whereas if you've got more time that you're able to commit, look into some of the paid programs, right? So we've got many of them at Memorial, and I'll talk about some of them now. So these are paid research and experiential learning programs. First of all, the most common one, I think, that every undergraduate student that starts a research career at Memorial gets their hands on is the Undergraduate Career Experience Program, or MUSIP. And MUSIPs are relatively short, so it's 40 or 80-hour work placements per semester. So if you think of a 40-hour placement for a 10-week semester, it works out to about 4 hours commitment a week, and you do get paid a little bit of money for this. And students usually do this during the fall or winter semester while they're doing a full course load. So there's a lot of flexibility behind this, because sometimes you might not be able to go into the lab because it's midterm week and you're completely frazzled. Whereas then when you come back off midterm week, things have calmed down a little bit. You can say, okay, I'll make it up by spending a bit more time in the lab. And most professors, most supervisors are going to be really open-minded and flexible about the hours that you put in. And the projects will depend on your own work experience and the sort of graduate student mentors that you might be paired up with. So for these, the supervisor advertises the position, and you as an applicant would submit your resume online during what's called MUSIP week, which is usually the first full week of the semester. So this year, I looked up the dates, it's from September 10th. They open at 5 p.m. to Friday, September 17th at 12 p.m. You can access these jobs through your mymun.ca portal. So look up for jobs there. If you're interested in learning more specifics about the MUSIP program, the easiest way to find it is go to the www.mun.ca website, and just in the search window, type MUSIP, and it'll take you to the page in the Memorial website that fills you in with all the eligibility requirements, how much money you would get for a 40 or 80-hour work placement, etc. So for example, I've got a job advertised for this fall semester. That's a 40-hour position, and many of my colleagues in chemistry, and in fact, the whole Faculty of Science, will have these positions. The MUSIPs are also not just research positions. There are other clerical positions around the university. So I know the Student Life Center advertises lots of MUSIP. I know our science stores for dispensing chemicals and lab equipment, they have MUSIP positions. Some of them are more MUSIP positions to help out in the undergraduate student resource room, so the help center. So if you're a senior undergraduate student and you want to help, tutor some students in your department, then a MUSIP position may be available there. So look into it. There are lots of options. My recommendation here is, if there's a MUSIP position that has very specific job requirements, say this student must be declared a math major or a chemistry major or a physics major, etc., and you're not from that discipline. So in chemistry, I get a lot of applicants from the School of Business or Humanities, and I really don't give them a look at all, because I know those students won't have done any WHMIS training, they wouldn't have done lab safety, completely unsuitable for the position. So don't waste your time by applying to something that you clearly aren't in the right program for. So do read the requirements. The next program that's a paid program is the Student Work and Service Program. And this one's a little bit different. So these are 100 or 260-hour work placements. Most students are eligible for the 100-hour placements. The 260-hour placement is you're only eligible if you are a student parent. Namely, if you are either a mature student and you've got kids to look after at home. So if you've got children yourself and you're currently a full-time student, then you would be eligible for the 260-hour work placement. But most students, they're only eligible for the 100-hour placement. And most people do this during a semester where they don't have a full course load. So if you have your courses in the fall semester and the winter semester, and your 4 months of summer are off, you would do it over the summer placement. And this is an interesting way of getting paid. You get paid in terms of a tuition voucher. So they will deduct $1,200 for your tuition, or they'll give you a $750 voucher plus $450 in cash for your 100-hour placement. The 260-hour placement, of course, the values go up. And in this case, the student applies for funding. So you as the candidate, you would fill in your application, your proposal, and there's a deadline this September for the 17th at 5 p.m. to get it in. And once you are awarded, arrange a supervisor. So these aren't jobs that are advertised. These are effectively research scholarships, you might think about it, that you apply for, and then you choose a professor that you want to work for, sort of with your award in hand. You contact people and say, Professor X, I've got a SWASP for this summer. Do you have any openings in your lab to take me on? And then most people will very happily accept. And again, to learn more about this, go to the Memorial website and do a search for SWASP. Other paid experiential learning programs, these are probably the most prestigious in terms of the salary awarded. And we're looking at the NSERC. So NSERC is the Natural Sciences and Engineering Research Council. This is the main funding body for natural sciences, physical, biological, life science research in Canada. And they also have special awards, scholarships for students to apply for. These are very competitive. Our Faculty of Science, our Dean, has prepared a matching set of funds called the SURA Awards. So students who might just be below the cutoff for the national USRA program, you might be eligible for an institutional SURA program, which is the Science Undergraduate Research Award. So they're equal in value. So these are, again, paid full-time summer work terms, 16 weeks of 35 hours per week. And you get paid quite handsomely for these. The exact figures are available on the website. And again, the student applies for these. So the applications are due usually mid-January. So I expect it'll be the same thing in 2022. So if you're interested, and these are held over the summer. So you apply in January, you find out in about March or April, and then once you find out, you speak to a professor and let them know that you've got this USRA or SURA award, because you get some money from either NSERC or from the Dean's office, and then the PhDs, your research supervisor contributes some money to the salary as well. So these are very competitive. They're based mostly on grades. So we're looking at a high B average is the typical cutoff. So in terms of a percentage, we're looking mid to high 80s for students to apply for these. Some exceptional cases, you're looking at low 80s or that threshold. So if your GPA's about 80% or above, you should apply for one of these. And again, if you are thinking of applying, do potentially contact some supervisors ahead of this time. So maybe in December or early January, when you get back, before you apply, start sending out emails to potential supervisors and say, oh, I'm interested in applying for a USRA. I would like to hold it in your laboratory. Do you have any tips or advice? And then that way the professor can help you get your paperwork sorted. And again, for info on this, go to the MUN website, do a search for USRA or SURA. So USRA or SURA. If you like to travel, then an exchange program could be for you. These are great. I didn't even know that they existed when I was an undergraduate student. And then I found some of my classmates ended up going to Italy, Germany, and France. Some students went to Japan. So these are fantastic programs. These are a little bit more complex because some of them you apply via a program in Canada called MyTax. Others you apply for through the program at that host institution. So for example, in Germany, there's a program called the DAAD, which is the German Academic Exchange Exchange Program. And it's the DAAD RISE. So Research Internships in Science and Engineering, they call it. So DAAD RISE. So this takes a lot of planning because you've got to make sure that you're eligible to work. Some countries will require work permits or special visas, others don't. It really depends on where you want to go. So you want to start searching early. So certainly for this coming summer, this September, start doing your searching. And there are ways to go about this. So Canadian undergraduates can apply through the program called MyTax for a global research award. And these awards will pay you for 12 to 24 weeks of research experience in a foreign country. And some countries have got specific universities that you can work at. Some of them are industrially based, but most of them are academic programs. So do look into the MyTax program. It's really good. In this case, you really should contact your potential supervisor before you apply, because they will help you prepare, because a lot of these require you to write a research proposal. So if you talk to a potential supervisor first, they can help you with the proposal writing, which can be tricky. And I recommend this for students in their second year or higher, because in your second year or higher, you now have got more contacts in your own home department to help you get in touch with these foreign professors in other countries so they can get the contacts for you. Memorial doesn't have a lot of information on its own site, so here Google is your best friend, so you can do a search for student research exchange in country X, Germany, France, Spain, Japan, Australia, etc. You can look into these. Lastly, I'll talk about the undergraduate honors program. So this is the sort of capstone course at the end of your degree. It's an independent study project that you do in your 4th year. So this is a research-based course. So no classes. It's a 2-semester, 6-credit course. So you do, you have 3 credits in the fall, 3 credits in the winter usually. So it's equivalent to 2 courses. So you're also usually doing a full-time course load as well. So you're doing 4 class-based courses, and then you're doing your 2 semesters of research. And most programs that I'm aware of, in science, they don't have lab components to their 4th year courses, because this will allow you to spend more time in the laboratory during your own independent study, coming up with your own lab experiments. So in this case, you're conducting part-time research alongside your other courses, resulting in a thesis. So these are often challenging. A lot of students are quite daunted by this idea of a thesis or writing such a significant document, but it develops independence, time management skills, reading and writing skills, right? Learning to really maximize the use of the software on your computer. Writing in Word and Excel and PowerPoint becomes your best friend by the end of this program. You really develop a lot of transferable skills outside of the science that you're doing. And in this case, I recommend talking to potential supervisors in your 3rd year, and check your department's policies for selecting a supervisor and declaring an honors degree. Every department has a slightly different procedure for how honors students declare their program and how they choose a supervisor. So again, go to the website for your department or speak to one of your course instructors in your program, and they'll help you out. So the last thing I want to show you is, hopefully to get you inspired, is a little video that I took of my walkthrough of the core science facility, where the departments of chemistry, biology, and biochemistry are going to be housed. So the undergraduate teaching labs for those departments are going to be in this building, as well as a lot of research space. There's going to be a lot of open learning areas, some great places. There's going to be a cafe in there, I believe, and a lot of the research infrastructure. So the major pieces of equipment, major large spectrometers and instruments that we use as researchers, they're all going to be on display. So the labs are going to be available for all to see with large glass windows. So you'll be able to see science in action as you go through your undergraduate program here. So hopefully this little video works. So this is the main foyer entrance from the University Center, from the UC into the new CSF. So the first pavilion is an engineering pavilion. So electrical engineering is housed there. And then once you enter the second pavilion, you get to science. So these are the graduate student and research student desk areas. So if you're doing research with a supervisor, you'd be assigned a desk in this space to help write up your work. And this is one of the synthetic chemistry research labs. All right, so that concludes my formal presentation. And if there are any students watching this live, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
That was amazing. That video you took was great, especially all the great shots of the blue whale atrium. So yeah, if students have any questions, you can pop them in the chat. I know sometimes you don't want to type anything in the chat. So I don't know if Dr. Kozak, you want to put your email in. We also have the chemistry advice email that we can put in the chat. But yeah, I really hope you guys enjoyed learning about research. It truly is a great thing to consider when you're doing a science degree here at MUN. And I really hope you guys are considering doing that throughout your university adventures. Another great thing Dr. Kozak pointed out in his presentation was about joining student societies. So that is a great way to meet people who are on the same path as you, doing similar courses. You might meet a lab partner in there. So definitely check out the Chemistry Society Facebook page. If you just search up MUN Chemistry, it'll just pop up and you can request to join. Super good to join that. Lots of events that the Chemistry Society is planning. So we do have a question there. Is MUSEP for first year students as well?
Unmute. There we go. Yes, MUSIP students in first year can apply. Now, bearing in mind, the MUSIPs are often competitive. We get students applying from lots of different at lots of different levels of their path of their program, but first year students are encouraged to apply.
Yeah. It's definitely a good way to start, making connections early on. So yeah, you can definitely apply to MUSEPs. And
Because
then
even if you aren't awarded the paid MUSIP, then the supervisor might say, "You look, I had to give this to someone who was in their third year. They've got a little bit more experience, but I have an opening for a volunteer position if you want to just drop by the lab a couple of hours a week just to get a feel, a vibe for the research that's going." I know I had a high school student this past summer, so one of my former master's students and undergraduate student, she ended up going into teaching and is teaching at one of the local high schools here in St. John's. And she asked me to give a little research presentation or talk about my research in science and chemistry in general to her class. And one of the students was so excited by it, she sent me an email and said, "Oh, Dr. Kozak, I've got some time this summer between my many part-time jobs as I try to save up money for tuition. Can I come into your lab and just hang out for a few hours a week on, say Friday mornings?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." And it was great. So, and she would just show up, and every week she would shadow a different graduate student and she interviewed the different students. We also had two high school students through the Women in Science and Engineering program this summer, and they were at the same level. So these were grade 11 students in high school. And when the three of them were together, it was great because they were at the same level, they were sharing their mutual experiences, and they were teaching one another. So even a little bit of volunteer work, they really got a flavor for what research is all about.
So another question from the same student: do you recommend something else for first years?
That's what I just said, volunteering.
Yeah. And again, you'll be in your first year chemistry labs, and it's always good to try to talk to the TAs because they always have some great advice for first year, second year students. So definitely talk to them. They're always willing to chat while you're doing your labs. They're super great to talk to. So definitely do that as well. You can also find out a lot of, oh, Marcus says, how can I get involved with volunteering in my first year?
Talk to your professor, talk to your TA, right?
Yeah.
Like I said in the slideshow, if you're interested in any of these, reach out. Don't be shy, ask questions. So if you're in your first year, you're taking a wide variety of courses. If you're in science, you're probably doing chemistry, biology, physics, math, maybe earth science, maybe psych, right? So any number of those courses. If there's one particular research area or one particular field of study that you're interested in, speak to the professor. And although that professor who's actually teaching the course, they may not be doing research and they may not have a space for a volunteer, but they can say, we've our department's just hired a new professor and they're really anxious to get some fresh people into the lab and inspire them, they might be able to take you on. So yeah, just ask and talk to your TAs. Ask your TAs what sort of research they're doing, if they are doing research, and an opinion as to, okay, so what professor, I'm interested in doing a degree in psychology or behavioral neuroscience. Oh, you're doing you did a degree in that. Which professor do you recommend I approach? So yeah.
Yeah. And then maybe something you didn't do a lot in high school, but I think you should get used to it starting university. And it's just, maybe staying after class and going up to talk to the professor, or ask questions, ask about opportunities. You can't really be shy when it comes to those things,
Yeah.
because you do want to get your name out there. So definitely take advantage of all the question sessions your professors hold to really get to know them. And again, student societies are always posting like volunteering opportunities and job opportunities in those fields in the Facebook group chats. So if you go and join them, I'm sure you'll be hearing a lot of volunteer opportunities come up in the next couple of weeks or so as the semester gets started. So that's also a good way to get involved in volunteering in your first year. So if there's no other questions,
I'll add to that
yeah,
as
go
well,
for it.
is a thing that a lot of students don't make the most out of because they'll go to the help centers. Almost every professor that teaches first year, every instructor who teaches first year will have what are called office hours. Now, very few students in their first year know what office hours really are. Office hours are really just open hours, drop-in hours. So office hours, if I'm teaching, I usually teach Chem 1050 in the fall. This year I'm not teaching and I've got a break from teaching this semester to focus on some other work. But normally I would say, all right, so these hours during the week is when you're guaranteed to find me in my desk. I'll be working on something, but if someone knocks on my door, if a student comes and knocks on my door and has a question related to the course, related to any sort of other care or issues that they need, advice on, right? It's my sort of drop-in hours to be a mentor, whether it's an academic mentor for your course or a personal life coach or anything like that. I'm very happy to share my years of wisdom with anyone who has any questions and make the most of these. We professors will often we share memes on Twitter about how often lonely we are sitting in our offices during office hours, drinking coffee, staring at our Twitter screen because no students are coming in to chat with us. So go talk to the professors. Go to their office hours because those are the times that we are dedicating entirely to you. If you drop by a professor's office outside of office hours, we might be a bit grumpy because we might be working towards a deadline for a grant application or trying to help a student get a thesis submitted or trying to solve a problem in the lab of an instrument breaking down. So don't expect that you'll be able to just come and knock on your professor's door anytime 9 to 5. Office hours when we dedicate to it. Otherwise, if you can't make those office hours, just send the professor a kindly email and say, oh, Professor so-and-so, I can't make your office hours because I've got a conflict with another course. Can I arrange a time to drop by and chat with you about this, this, this? And most professors will be very, very helpful to schedule a time. Certainly after a year and a half of teaching remotely, we are dying to speak to another human being face to face and to try to be enthusiastic and helpful to them. So definitely make the most of it. We really want to help.
Yeah, for sure. And again, if you're shy about going up, email, you have your phone, you have a computer, the library has computers. You can definitely find a way to, send an email if that's more in your comfort zone, to set up a meeting instead of just, dropping by. So yeah, that was a lot of great information shared. I hope you guys gathered a lot and learned a lot. If there's any last minute questions, you guys can go ahead and type it in the chat or turn on your mic. You can definitely do that. But yeah. But if that's it, we'll go ahead and stop recording there and end the session. So thank you, Dr. Kozak, for all that great advice. I definitely learned a lot of stuff as well. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
Yeah, no problem. So I'll go stop recording there.